Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I go shlok by shlok, adhyay by adhyay through the Srimad Bhagwad Gita. For those people who are directly on this video, I would strongly urge you guys to go to the previous video so that this makes some level of sense. I'm essentially going to read out the Bhagwad Gita to you guys and explain, in my humble opinion, the translated meaning of each phrase and also my own interpretation, what I feel it connects to, and whether there are some deeper philosophical truths hidden within this Bhagavad Gita. Without further ado, we go on to the Shlok 59 of the Srimad, of the second Adhyaya of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagwan Sri Krishna is talking about the characteristics of an enlightened soul. विषया विनिवर्तने निराहरस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽपि अस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. Through the embodied soul, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But seizing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So what Bhagavan Sri Krishna is saying here, that okay, even if you restrict yourself from enjoying, let's say, tasty food or beautiful women or whatever, you will never lose your taste for both of those things. Like, you'll always be attracted to these things. But just because you're attracted to these things does not mean that you indulge in these things. Why? Because indulgence does not there's no limit to indulgence in some sense, and that is why even according to Christianity, gluttony is considered a sin according to Catholicism. Why? Because okay, you're eating because you're hungry. That's perfectly acceptable. You should do it. But at what point should you stop? And like so many people, unfortunately, in the civilized and developed countries all over the world are morbidly obese. Why? Because fundamentally, a lot of them, they do not have proper control over their own appetite. They do not know how to properly regulate the amount of calories that they're consuming. So they end up consuming many more calories than they should, maybe because they have access to high calorie, extremely tasty foods, which may to some extent hijack their nervous system. But at the end of the day, you have a choice, right? You have a choice to not overindulge, and the same thing in other things. So this is what Bhagwan Shri Krishna is telling you, that you don't have to overindulge in these things. You should engage in these things to satisfy your desires and then stop. यततो ह्यापि कौन्तेय पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः इन्द्रियाणि प्रमाथिनि हरन्ति प्रसभं मनः. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind of even a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. I think this is one of the most self-explanatory shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita, even with translation. I think we've all been in situations where we were, in some sense, overpowered by our senses. And in some ways, this reminds me of Freudian philosophy, Sigmund Freud. I understand that he's been parts of his theory have been, how do you say, discredited. However, according to Sigmund Freud, there are three layers to the mind of a person. One is the id, which is a hallmark of primal desires. Then there's the ego, which sort of tries to reorganize the desires of the id within an acceptable, socially acceptable framework. And then there's the superego, which no, wait, sorry. The ego is actually responsible for logically trying to satisfy the desires of the id, and then the superego is responsible for the ethics or the social acceptability of the satisfaction of the desires of the id. So let's say an ice cream truck passes by, your id is like, get that ice cream, get that ice cream. And then your ego is something like, okay, okay, fine, if you want it, we go there, we pay for it, something like this. And then maybe your superego is like, hey, you're already morbidly obese. Maybe, drowning yourself in a tub of ice cream is not the best idea. Something like this. So तानि सर्वाणि संयम युक्ता आसिता मत पर वसे ही यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञ प्रतिष्ठिता. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. That is, you should always try to control your senses and try to fix your mind on God. But what does it mean to fixate on God? Meditate on God. Every religion says that. What does that actually mean in practical terms? I believe that when you call to God in heaven, or when you call to God within your own heart and soul, I believe you're appealing to all that is best in you. Because according to every religion that I have read, there is a little bit of divinity in all of us. Param Atma ka ek avshesh hum sabhi ke bhitar hai. So if there is a little bit of divinity in all of us, then it is the best idea in the world to call out to that divinity, to heed the voice of our own conscience, and to act accordingly. ध्यायतो ध्यायातो विषयान् पुंसा संगस्तेषुपजयते संगत संजयते कामः कामत क्रोधो विज्यते. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment from them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from such lust anger arises. I'll read 62 and 63 together. क्रोधा भवति सम्मोह सम्मोहत स्मृति विभ्रम स्मृति भ्रमशत बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशत प्रणश्यति. From anger, complete delusion arises. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When the memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when the intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Now, this may be the weirdest crossover ever, but these two shlokas of the Srimad Bhagwad Gita remind me of Star Wars and Yoda, believe it or not. So, in Star Wars, Yoda tells Anakin that do not fall prey to fear, young Jedi, because fear will give rise to anger, anger will give rise to hatred, and hatred will give rise to despair. So essentially, Bhagavan Shri Krishna is talking about a chain of cascading emotions, and how one emotion, which when looked at there, might not seem like that big a deal or that bad of a thing, but the downstream cascading effects of giving in to that emotion and becoming a slave in some sense to that emotion are the complete destruction of character and the ruination of one's life. So, what is he saying? He's saying that if you are contemplating an object of desire, then you tend to develop an attachment for that thing. And whenever you develop an attachment for something, you develop lust for it. And if you are lustful about something or someone, you automatically are very protective of them, you are automatically very possessive of them. And because of this, you will be angry. From this anger, there will be delusion. And from delusion, there will be bewilderment of memory. So, what does it mean that there will be bewilderment of memory? Because memory, like we think our memory is like a perfect record, and it's not. Like multiple court cases have shown that human memory is one of the most fallible things in the world. We constantly misremember things, we constantly misidentify people. Human memory is like a sieve. We forget so much more than we remember, you know, and what we remember might not necessarily be true. False memories are totally a thing. And when, especially when you're completely emotional about something or someone, and then you have memories regarding that person, your emotions will taint that memory, and maybe your memory is not an accurate record of the actual events which transpired. And when you can't even, your memory is not proper, how are you supposed to properly think about that person? And so your ability to think is automatically polluted because the data you have available about this person is polluted. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So, what Bhagavan Shri Krishna is saying is that excessive attachment to things or people leads to you developing a sort of lust about that thing and or person. When you are lustful about that person, you're angry, possessive, you're possessive about them, you're hyper protective, which leads to anger. This anger leads to delusion. Why? Because when you're angry, you can't think properly. Your cognitive processes are hindered. And from these hindered cognitive processes, there's bewilderment of memory. And because the data about that person is now corrupted, the ability to process that data is automatically hindered. One because of emotion, and one because the data is not really valid. So because of both of these things, intelligence is lost. And what he means by falling into the material pool is you're then stuck. You're like any other animal, a slave to its primal senses, endlessly trapped in the cycle of birth and death, and unaware of the higher purpose of life, and not even seeking moksha, which is a mukti, or which is liberation from this world. Thank you. Thank you. Shout outs to Sharvari for giving me that very important tip about trying to improve my pronunciation of Sanskrit. And please like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the videos what you think about it. It's been so much fun recording the Bhagavad Gita for you guys and bringing it it's my humble effort. Until then, Jai Shri Krishna.